Ever wonder why he doesn't just get you by now? Over the years, I have coached countless couples, and what I've learned is that this frustration isn't about emotional availability. It's about the mixed signals you're both quietly sending. So, in this video, I'm going to show you how you can start speaking your needs clearly without feeling forced or fake and begin to reconnect effortlessly. I'm going to share with you why your partner can't just magically know what you need, how to ask for it without feeling needy or dramatic, and what that growing disconnect might really mean. Because the thing is, clarity, it doesn't come from having the perfect words. It comes from seeing where your experience is really coming from. And when you see that, communication shifts. You stop talking in circles and start connecting for real and bringing back the feelings of closeness. Now, let's talk about that question that loops in your mind every time you feel triggered. Is it me? Yes, but not in the way that you think. Not because you're broken or too emotional, but because you're living in a moment of thought. And it looks real. Old patterns, old pain, and old stories bubble up in fresh thought. And if we don't see it for what it is, well, we act from fear instead of presence. And it's perfectly normal and it's perfectly human. One of my clients, every time her partner raised his voice even slightly, she felt like she couldn't breathe. Not because he was being awful, but because her mind and body were responding to an old memory. And once she saw that her panic was coming from inside her and not from her partner, everything changed. She stopped needing him to behave a certain way just so she could feel okay. And when you see what's really going on, that you are experiencing thought, not reality, you stop blaming yourself. You stop blaming them and start responding from a totally different place, a place that is calmer and more grounded. And one powerful way you can shift your communication is through ownership language. So instead of saying, "You're making me feel abandoned," try something like, "This situation brings up a familiar feeling that I've struggled with before." This tiny shift, it changes everything. It changes the tone of the conversation, the feelings of closeness. And instead of making your partner feel like they're on trial for emotional neglect, it actually invites them into your experience. Like, "Hey, welcome to the weird museum of my inner world." And that's emotional maturity. You're not hurling blame grenades. You're owning your patterns like a grown-up with a little flair. And over time, this turns your relationship into a place where honesty doesn't feel like a high-stakes confession. You're not hiding your needs, or you're not apologizing for them. You're just saying, "Here's what's going on with me," and that's clarity. That's how real connection grows stronger, even in the toughest conversations. Once you see how your past and your memories can shape your reactions, the next step is realizing that no one, even your partner, no one can read your mind. And learning to speak up clearly is what turns all the emotional guessing games into real connection. You feel disappointed, maybe even resentful, because he should know what you need by now, right? But here's the thing, he probably doesn't. And it's not because he doesn't care, but because you haven't clearly expressed it out loud. It's important to move from silent frustration to clear, kind communication that actually gets heard. I was working with a woman, and she spent years dropping subtle hints, hoping her partner would magically pick up on her need for uninterrupted time together. when he didn't, and over the years, her resentment grew. But everything changed the moment she clearly said, "You know, hun, I'd really love it if we had dinner together once a week, just the two of us." Suddenly, the guessing stopped and the connection returned. When you stop expecting mind reading and start directly expressing what matters, your relationship shifts from disappointment to genuine closeness. You don't have to lecture, convince, demand. You simply speak with the honesty you've been saving for your journal. One powerful step you can take right now is to let go of the phrase, "he should already know." It's tempting. We all want to feel understood without constantly spelling things out. But expecting your partner to just know without clearly communicating, well, that sets you both up for frustration. Instead, pause and gently ask yourself, have I actually told him what I need? And if the answer is no, start there. Be clear, kind, specific, loving. Remember, you're not being demanding, you're being honest. This simple shift from assumption to clear communication, it turns silent resentment into real connection. It will bring you closer to one another, one honest conversation at a time. Once you stop relying on mind reading and you start expressing yourself with clarity, the next shift is seeing that the behaviors you're reacting to, his withdrawal, his defensiveness, or his mood swings, they aren't personal attacks. They're coming from his own fear-based thinking in the moment. And when you see it that way, it gets easier to meet it with understanding instead of getting pulled into the storm. How much of your partner's difficult behavior is actually self-protection, not rejection? A client of mine, when we first met and began talking, she was telling me that every time an argument started, her partner would go silent. She assumed he just didn't care, and she felt deeply hurt. But once she recognized his silence came from fear of conflict, fear of disappointing her, she began responding differently. She felt compassion for him. She didn't excuse the behavior, but she approached it with understanding and compassion instead of resentment. When you start seeing fear beneath your partner's frustrating behaviors, you soften blame and gain compassion. You can have conversations and offer compassionate, kind words. Instead of staying stuck, asking yourself, why are they like this? You begin to wonder, what's really underneath this? Here's how you can put this into practice. When your partner gets defensive or avoids a conversation or slams the door and runs out or emotionally withdraws, your instinct might be to push harder or to take it personally. But instead, try saying something like, "We don't have to solve this right now. I just want to understand what's actually going on for you." This simple sentence reduces emotional pressure and it signals safety rather than confrontation. You're not letting your partner off the hook. You're creating a safe space where honesty can happen without fear. Over time, this approach breaks the cycle of blame and withdrawal, builds trust, eases tension, and opens the door to deeper, more authentic, more loving connection. Once you realize your partner isn't out to ruin your life, he may just be responding from fear and emotional confusion. The next step is looking in the mirror and going, okay, I'm not perfect either, and I'm not always a breeze. And that shift, well, that changes everything. It moves the conversation from blame to teamwork. Two imperfect humans figuring it out together, one honest moment at a time. You keep wondering, oh, why is this so hard? Why do the same arguments keep happening over and over again? And why does it feel like I'm doing all the emotional heavy lifting? But let me offer a gentle truth wrapped in love. You're probably a bit hard to live with too. Hey, we all are. The shift from blame to ownership is powerful, and not in a self-critical way, but in a compassionate, let's be real humans together kind of way. I was speaking with a client, and she often felt frustrated because her partner would always shut down during hard conversations. But when Dana got honest with herself, she realized she had a habit of turning every talk into a performance review. The moment she acknowledged that openly, something shifted. She had a realization. She had an insight. Her partner's defenses softened, tension eased, and they could finally talk without, wearing that full coat of armor. When you start seeing your own edges with compassion instead of judgment, your relationship, it stops feeling like a tug of war, and it becomes a partnership again. Two imperfect people finally willing to grow together. Something that I have seen, after a conflict, the quickest path from tension back to connection is to lead with repair instead of defensiveness. Instead of rehashing who was more right, I found that simply saying something like, hey, I could have handled that better. Can we talk it through? This one sentence signals emotional maturity, lowers your partner's guard, and opens the door to genuine resolution. You're not pretending you didn't mess up. You're owning it and inviting your partner into the repair process. Over time, I'm telling you, this practice will bring you closer, and it builds trust, resilience, and true intimacy. It says clearly, we're not perfect, but we care enough to clean up the mess together. And that's what real connection looks like. If you've ever walked away from a conversation thinking, that went nowhere, well, you're like everyone else, me included. You're not alone. We've covered how your past and your memories can shape your reactions, how unspoken needs create distance, and how even fear can wear the mask of bad behavior. But here's something else to consider. Talking more doesn't fix it. In fact, saying too much at the wrong time can make things worse. So if you're ready to stop talking in circles and start creating conversations that actually connect, check out this video. Some words make your heart skip a beat. It's all about timing, tone, and how to find the words that truly land. And always remember, you are not broken. There's nothing to fix. You are love.